Somebody's not muted. Thank you.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a super depressing episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be talking about the most depressing-ass Netflix movie of the year, How It Ends. Spoiler alert, not great. Doesn't end great.
You heard How It Ends, and you're like, this is going to be a fucking heartwarmer.
I'm your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, he drinks beer, he lives in Chicago, his name is Joe.
All those things are true.
Next
Just
up,
to confirm, every member of ABBA is still alive.
Abo. Abo, I think, is the name of that like electronic dog that Toyota made or whatever.
Oh.
Next up on the show, coming to you from Indiana, he vapes. He's playing World of Warcraft right now. His name's Casey.
Hey, just because you've been in Massachusetts long enough that you can't pronounce or you mispronounce O's and misunderstand them, it's not my fault.
Listen, we're going to run that tape back and see what the tail of the tape says there, buddy. Next up on the show, coming to us from Atlanta, Georgia, please welcome the High Priestess of Books and Smart Things at Bloody Good Horror, Cece.
Hello.
And last up tonight, coming to you from a place that you may not want to be in the apocalypse, Schnars, New York City, Manhattan to be specific. Please welcome our business manager, John Schnars.
Hello, Eric.
You know who they never really talk about in this movie, John?
Exasperated.
Is the wife who gets left in New York City. We never.
Oh well, it's first of all, it's Chicago.
Okay, that makes sense.
Chicago.
Whatever, the city, quote unquote, the city.
Well, she goes to the brother's house.
We need to look up.
It's like
We need to look her up on IMDb because I think that might be Becky Barnett from what is the name of that movie? Boogie Nights. I think she was in Boogie Nights, the mom.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'll investigate.
Like
but
semi-unrecognizable at this point, but I think that was her. I'm really excited also, Schnars, for two reasons. One, we're going to talk about The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs here off the top. Also, it's week 2 of John pretending that he's growing stubble and we can see it on the screen. And then we all go like, oh, yeah, I can totally see it.
All right. So first of all, that was Becky Barnett. You are correct.
Yeah.
Verified.
Nailed it.
Second of all, I have not used a razor now in it's probably been like 2 months. So I don't even want to hear it. Like this is like
2 months of growth. That's 2 months of growth on your face?
No, like I use trimmers and like clean it up. But this is like,
Wait,
it's like 2 weeks of no trimmers.
are you growing a goatee?
No,
that's all he
Joe,
can
we have this
physically
conversation
grow,
every
Joe.
week, so
No,
I'm
we
not
have
even-
not delved deep. We usually just make fun of the stubble and then we move on. Like,
I'm not even going to be dragged into this, Joe.
He literally has the facial hair without even trimming it of an evil movie character. Like he just grows the devil goatee.
I was going to say, it's got a little Tony Stark edging going on right there, you know?
Edging.
it looks
I cannot even roll my eyes hard enough for the rest of you right now.
I mean, I
I
thought
would
that was a
interest-
compliment. Tony Stark, he's got nice facial hair, right?
John, part of the problem is it's too dark. What I'm going to need you to do after the show is get in your bathroom and turn on those overhead lights and just take some nice close up, like all the way around selfies, like you're at the dentist and you're taking x-rays.
Maybe bleach it.
Could you give us a panorama of your face from one side to the other and then send it?
Panorama.
Yeah, I will. I'll work on it. I'll send you some cell phone video. From
I
my
can't
bath.
really accurately
You're
judge.
always asking me.
I can't really accurately judge the growth unless I'm seeing like a really good picture of it every week, you know?
If I saw John at a party, I would 100% think that guy has roofies. Like,
That's horrible.
Like he's studying for his GED and taking night classes, and he can't forget to go to his parole meetings in the morning.
just try trying to get better, guys.
You guys, I love coming here every week. It's always a pleasure. It's the highlight of my week, really. Let me tell you.
John is just relapsed like maybe 20 minutes ago. That's what I would think.
Listen, man, had a rough day. All right.
Oh Christ.
Guys,
It's not off the wagon, but his foot's dangling.
let's talk about the event that rocked the horror community this weekend, you guys. Joe Bob Briggs coming back to life with The Last Drive-In. Let's talk about feelings.
Was he in the same graves that the ABBA singers were in?
He did break the internet. Joe, I'm curious, Joe, your experience, because you talked about sort of not realizing how nostalgic you might be for this, but I'm sitting there Friday night. I've been waiting for this thing for weeks. I keep telling my wife, look, I'm doing this thing on Friday night. She was very understanding. Time's clicking, we're counting down. By 8:30, something took me by surprise. I literally started feeling the feeling when you're a kid on Christmas morning and you want to get up, but it's 4 a.m. and you can't get up and you're you got butterflies in your stomach. I got so excited for this thing before it happened. How were you feeling going into this?
The more you've been talking about it week to week, I've gotten more excited about it. I think we've all talked about Friday, Saturday nights would watch Joe Bob Briggs, a lot of times with your older brother, actually. So the more you talked about it, the more I got interested. So I signed back up for Shudder literally that Friday afternoon. And the same thing, as it was getting closer, the more excited I was getting. I thought I'll turn it on here and there and check it out. But then I legit was excited to see it kick off. And then it just didn't.
So I'm sitting here. I said to Mark was breaking my balls for this on Twitter today, but Friday at work, Mark and I G-chat all day long, and I G-chat him. I'm like, I don't want to say this out loud on Twitter because I don't want to put this kind of negative energy out in the world. But I was like, I just feel like Shudder doesn't get it, and they're about to crash. And and Mark was like, do you really think there's that many? This is his voice in my head that I'm pretending. Do you really think there's that many people that are interested in it? And I'm like, I can guarantee you it's more people than Shudder normally have watching their live stream on any given day, right? In the very least, you could say that, right?
The best part about that is that did sound like Mark.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say it needed higher, a little higher.
Just look at the number of people that have popped up at Horror Hound the past few times we've been there. All those people, even if half of them grew up watching this and got nostalgic and decided to sign up, I feel like that was more than Shudder could probably handle.
I think he's got wide appeal though too, because it's not just the horror nerds like we are that you typically see at movie conventions either. I think from a lot of the people we saw tweeting over the weekend and stuff like that, at least that I saw poking around, I'm not going to say normies, but there's a lot of people that are not as diehard into horror as some of us too. He's got a really broad appeal.
I actually agree. If you were in a certain demographic, certain age group, I had a friend who I work with who is not kind of in it like me, but watched a lot of the stuff as a kid. And the thing was, they were giving away a free trial, so it was zero impact if you wanted to buy in and just check this thing out. I think their thought was, and it's probably a smart one, let's just get people in the door. And if they like the service, they think it's worth, because I think they have a problem.
Well, the real thought is they'll forget to cancel after the free trial.
Well, maybe,
ends.
sure. But so anyway, I'm sitting there. I'm at my computer. I have my iPad going and the Night of the Living Dead is playing. That was a movie before it started. And then it hit the credits, and then you could tell they were about to do something, and literally the screen just went black. And I was like, oh, I'm sure I cursed. I'm sure I said something. Hit refresh. Nothing. I refreshed my iPad. Nothing. So literally, this was me for the next 45 minutes. Refresh. Nothing. Refresh. Nothing. Go to Twitter. Go to Twitter.
Send an angry text to each other.
Say, you forgot the part where you texted us 75.
We angry text each other. I go to Twitter. People on Twitter lost its GD mind on Friday night, because this thing was going down. And of course, when something goes down, what do you keep doing, right? I was literally refreshing with 2 devices. Schnars, when you're like getting DDoSed, like what's the worst possible thing? When you're just like pinging the thing over and over, right?
Is somebody playing ping pong? Like, is it...
Oh, sorry.
CC's
It's
fans
not.
on.
I think I've.
It's a fan, CC.
Or is that the haunted phonograph?
Sorry, I'm so used to Brody doing it that I blocked it out. I'm sorry, I forgot I wasn't muted.
Your dog plays ping pong?
That's amazing. But yeah, like it went on for a while, and
It was like 2 hours. Like it
Yeah.
was.
so here's the weird thing. So about 45 minutes in, so about around 9:45 at night, we're about sorry, my mic got screwed up there for a second. It's like 9:45 at night, and I'm already like just completely pissed off at this point. My wife's like avoiding me, like not even in the room. I refresh, and at one point, suddenly it starts up. So the third movie they played that night was, so it would have hit around 2 a.m. or something, was Rabid. Schnars. It's a favorite of yours, Cronenberg.
Yes. Cronenberg.
Joe Bob comes on. Now, mind you, I haven't even seen the opening of this show because it's been crashed. The
So were the
beginning of
movies working and just not the Joe Bob sequences?
nothing
No,
was.
the
But what
stream
happens was Joe Bob's. So I think that they were presenting this as if it was live. And if I had thought logically in my head, he's got to be in his 60s maybe. Like, this dude's not
He's
going to do it.
65. I
Yeah,
looked it up
yeah,
earlier
he's
today.
not going to do a 24-hour movie stream. But I don't know. It was just like they really pushed it beforehand about this is live. You got to join and be a part of this. Blah blah blah. So I was really like my head just wasn't thinking very critically about it. I was thinking it was live, and then they're having all these troubles. So I think I'm just kind of missing whatever. And then suddenly out of nowhere, the beginning of the third movie pops up, and it's Joe Bob being like, "Well, it's the middle of the night," and I'm like, "No, it's not, dude. It's 9:45." I was like, "What?" So at some point, the system melting down literally caused it to start serving people like things out of order, which is like real bad. And then the whole illusion shattered for me. I was real pissed. Finally, literally, I was in bed, ready to give up. 11 o'clock, I refreshed again, and it seemed to pick up where it should have been, which was either the beginning of or a little bit into the original Sleepaway Camp, which was the second movie. So I watched some of that. I don't know, Joe, did you watch it all Friday night, or did you just kind of give up?
By the time I went to bed after it was down for about 2 hours, I never even got anything to load, like even like the third movie.
Yeah,
And then
me
like
neither.
I randomly woke up at 3 a.m. and Prowler was on, and like I just wanted to see if it was actually working, so I checked it, and then that was on, and then like he popped on, and then I ended up watching for like an hour and a half.
That's awesome.
At like 3 a.m.
Dude, the Prowler's great.
It was great.
Prowler's fucking awesome. Yeah.
I ended up getting up at like 8 or 9 on Saturday morning, and that's the first thing I went and checked out. I was flipped it on and found it. Now I did see too. I thought it was kind of confusing because I'm wondering if I could have got into what you were seeing earlier, because I didn't know you had to go click on that premium section in the Shutter TV.
So you did.
Menu?
Well, here's the thing. Their site, for like your coming out party to the world, right? Where you're presumably going to be attracting some new eyeballs. The site was a damn mess. Like, if you clicked on first of all, the Joe Bob banner for the entire weekend said "coming soon." This thing, so it didn't even say, live,
Yeah.
whatever. If you clicked on the main banner that you saw, it just played a 2-minute trailer and then went to nothing.
Yeah, that's what.
So
well,
I
they
was getting it to
said-
play by hitting Shutter TV, which is their normal live stream,
Yeah,
and that's
it was
what
not very clear as to like how
Yeah.
because I kept doing that too, because the banner said coming soon, but then also in the logo it said live now.
It's insane. It's like literally the design on it was so frustrating and bad.
Well, even more confusing because I had my iPad out too, doing like you, trying to refresh multiple different sources. And the iPad, all it had was Shutter TV. You click that, you got Joe Bob. On the Amazon Fire Stick, you click on Shutter TV, and you got 5 different options to choose from.
And really, like, my only complaint about it was the technical stuff. The Friday stuff sucked.
yeah.
I woke up Saturday morning, like, I have a toddler, so I got up like 6 a.m. I threw it on while I'm making breakfast, and it was like some crazy like Italian or Spanish like lesbian vampire movie or something.
Oh,
and
yeah.
literally,
I actually thought that was really good. I'd never seen that before.
literally, they cut to him, and he's got like a map of Europe, and he's pointing out like the river that we're on and like where the chateau is and shit. It was amazing.
It was like Daughters of Darkness or something.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like Saturday was great. All
yeah,
day
it
long.
was
Like I
straight
had
up all
stuff
the way
to
to the
do.
end.
I had stuff to do. We went out in the morning. I came back, and then late morning I picked it up again. I caught like most of Basket Case while I was kind of doing some errands around the house. I was literally just like bringing my iPad around, but it was this really exciting thing of having appointment TV and knowing it was kind of live. Like you just don't get that anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and for me, I finally got it going on the Fire Stick on Saturday morning. I did the same thing. I left it running there until it ended all night long, till like 10 o'clock at night. I'd wander in and out. I might sit down and play a computer game. I always had them playing in the background, and it was fantastic because you don't have that anymore.
It was so cool. I mean, like I had definitely a flood of nostalgia, but also really missing like these event type things where you just have to be there. And I think that was like part of the experiment of what he wanted to do was bringing that back, because it's like the drive-in, right? Like the drive-in's an event. It's a place you have to go to and experience a thing.
Yeah.
But also like I could literally, so I was watching Reanimator, which it's funny, after the BGH tenure, I have such more of an appreciation for that movie. Like it's so well shot, the music's amazing, and I wanted to go to the gym here where I live. So like I put my phone in my pocket, and I went and worked out for like an hour just listening to Reanimator, which I've seen enough times to like know what's going on. It was so much fun. I'm like, literally, I could do this all the time.
Joe Bob talking about that movie because I watched that. I watched the Reanimator one today, because now if you go out to Shudder, they have all of the movies branched out, and with the menu you can go choose by movie.
It's great.
Get the whole thing. It's really awesome. So if you did miss it, you can go back and check it out. I watched Reanimator today and just listened to him, how excited he was, and I can't think of the actor's name now, but the actor that played the doctor that lost his head, the big asshole doctor that was walking around, because that was actually him walking around carrying the model of his head and everything and acting that out. And he was like a big daytime TV star, stuff like that. And Joe Bob, just listened to him talk about him, sounds like he was completely infatuated with the guy.
Dude, I learned so much about just random movie stuff. Like even a movie like Reanimator, where I felt like I knew all the trivia. He was just busting out some crazy shit that you just like, how do you even, like he must be calling these people up at home and being like, tell me something weird about this movie that I don't know, you know?
Well, that was great. There was no like time limit on him kind of rambling on. In fact, like I felt like every break he would be like, "All right, now back to the movie," and then he would like start on for like 5 more.
So
minutes.
It's funny because
another thing.
I've been watching some old ones, and they did it the same way, where you know it's a tight shot and he's talking, and then he goes, "Okay, back to the movie," and then they would cut to a little wider shot, and the old days, and the camera would slowly pan out, right? And he'd shoot the shit for like 20 more seconds, like he'd be talking to the crew like more casually. They would do that here, and they would do the same pan out and everything, but then he would just keep going, so the camera would stop, and they'd have to cut back into the tight shot, and then like go back to the pull-out shot after they set it back up. It was awesome though. Like going back today and watching some of the old ones, it's literally the same thing, like the same cadence. Yeah. The only weird thing was like, and Joe, I'm curious how you feel about this, but it was so weird hearing him talk about political stuff, and the thing was like, he's not making political statements, but he likes to bring the stuff up and make sort of lighthearted jests about it, but he does it in a way that's like, everything seems so serious and immediate nowadays. It's so weird to me. Like, it's one thing, so in the old shows, right, he's just making jokes about Bill Clinton getting beegers, right? Which feels really different.
Getting what?
Which feels really different from making a joke about Donald Trump, because as soon as you hear Donald Trump's name, like, your blood pressure goes through the roof. And you're just like, oh
he's
my
like,
God.
Putin's running the U.S. government.
Yeah,
you're
like
and this is awful to say, but also hearing it in a like deep Texas accent.
Yes.
Like,
and he's old, sort of and he's an older dude. You know, he comes from a different time, like 100%. And so to me, it was like, you know what I rewatched a lot of this. He really didn't say anything that was too crazy, but it's like you're holding your breath because you just feel like he might say something offensive at any second, and you don't want the internet to ruin Joe Bob for you, basically.
Yeah.
So that was a little.
It was great though. Like I full on, like when I was watching it, like got all the feels from like when I was a kid, like watching the show growing up. Like it was way more nostalgic than I thought it was going to be, and he was way better than I thought he was going to be. Like
so good.
He's 65. Like I thought it was going to be like a little dated, and he was going to be a little slow, but no, it was awesome.
Really sharp.
And you get the pure joy of him just talking about this shit, which is like what you used to get, and that was the funnest part about it. Because Basket Case is the one that stuck out to me, because he's talking about how he's personal friends with Frank Henenlotter, who directed that one, and just going on about some of the obscure shit he found. He's just having a blast out there is what it felt like.
And the other cool thing is, like, again, like, what Shudder's always been good at is having a good selection. What they've always been not super good at is the technical stuff, which is like literally this was a perfect microcosm of all that. But all these movies were good. You go back and look at Monster Vision, and any given week, it was like, now we're going to play the Howling 7. Because they had a really crappy movie library. this lineup was incredible. You know what I mean? Even a thing like The Legend of Boggy Creek, which I know is a Casey favorite, but I'm just like, I don't. That's not really my speed. But watching it in this context was totally fascinating.
Calling it a Casey favorite is a big leap. It's a Casey appreciated.
I don't have the nostalgia for it, but I get it. Watching it, it's just such a weird thing.
I had the nostalgia for it for like the first 10 minutes, and it's like, yeah, I got laundry to do. Sorry.
Yeah. And they ended it with Hellraiser was at 8, which is amazing. And then the surprise, what was really cool, they weren't announcing the movies until they got to them, which I got, it was like this thing you got excited for every couple hours. And then they ended like a surprise with Pieces, which was like literally the perfect thing to end that with.
Just bonkers. Like I had never even heard of that movie until we did it.
Yeah.
And like no one talked, like you don't, it's not like a movie that gets like talked about all that much. So for him to kind of pull that in.
So what I never knew, which is
awesome.
hilarious, is it's set in Boston, but they shot it in Madrid.
Yeah.
And so he's pointing this stuff out the whole movie. Like it's just like that was a great movie to see that way because it's so weird. So hear it,
He talked
Weird
a
is
lot
an
about like the star caliber of some of the people that from that time that they got to star in it too, and how crazy it was that they got them in there. Like the guy that played Bluto in the Popeye movies was really big back
that's
then.
Who that
and
is. Oh man, never even occurred to me.
there was great stuff, and because even on the Hellraiser, I really liked the Hellraiser one too, and a lot of the stories he had on there. And if it wasn't for him, I can't think of the character's name in Hellraiser, but the stepmom who's in love with Uncle Frank.
Yeah.
She's still acting today. She's in some pretty big stuff. I wouldn't know if it wasn't for Joe Bob.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was really, I think it was just like a really cool event. It'll definitely be a big memory for me. He had this really sort of earnest, kind of emotional outro thing where he gave a little speech and then walked off, but then he came back and he sat down in the chair and they slowly turned the studio lights off by one as the camera panned out and the credits ran. I was like, oh God, damn.
Right in the feels.
Yeah, man, it was brutal. But I don't know. My hope is, I always felt like part of, like at a certain point when he passed a certain age, he wasn't even interested in doing it anymore. You know what I mean? Like I think that there was a while where it would have made sense. I think now at his age, my hope is that they bring him back once or twice a year and just do these events, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Because if you did it every week, it would lose the luster,
If they're throwing him cash, I'm sure he's going to do it. Like, what else is he up to?
And I think my hope, the other thing, and I thought about this a lot, because we were talking, Schnars, about the technical end.
You've clearly thought about this a lot.
We were talking about the technical end of sort of dealing with the server load and stuff and how it's hard to anticipate that, but also you were saying you and Casey were saying like, it's hard to adjust on the fly when you know you're screwed. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Did you know? Did anyone? I mean, I think we talked about this on Slack, but Amazon.com went down for fucking 6 hours.
That was my comment. Like, if Amazon crashes, like I guess I can forgive Shudder for.
Yeah.
I mean, but I also think that if you think about Shudder, right? It's probably in itself a little business with a small group of people, but it's got these like multiple corporate overlords who own it. So when they want money for something, it's got to be a nightmare for them to get funding for something like this. So
definitely.
I feel like maybe what they got them to agree to was like, give us the money, let us do this one-time thing, we'll show you there's interest. And if that's the case, I have to think that was borne out, right?
Dude, the next day, I hope they were. I think it's owned by AMC, isn't it?
I think it's a joint thing. Like I think.
Well, either way, I hope they were going to like the head, the CEO, and being like, "Here's the like fucking number of tweets that were basically like
it was
Shudder
so like
a bunch of
literally
assholes.
like Basket Case was trending worldwide because of this thing. Like every movie that ran was in the top trending.
Such a good movie.
It really is. And again, like good trivia on that one that I never would have known otherwise.
You guys are making me want to sign up for Shudder.
Schnars, do you have any nostalgia for this stuff, John?
Well, yeah. So I used to watch it. It was on USA for the longest time. Isn't that where I watched it?
TNT.
Oh, TNT. Yeah. So I definitely watched it back in the day. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do, but it's also like on my list of priorities. Like
I won't hound Cece because she's clearly checked out over there.
No,
I was wondering if
think
CC is still there.
I just don't. I mean, I've seen it before, but no, I mean, like I don't have any nostalgia for it, so I just didn't have anything to add. I'm sorry. I was letting you wax poetic about it.
can the dog make any noises to see how he or she feels?
Well, I was on mute because I was afraid that was going to happen, and I wasn't adding anything to the conversation. So I was like,
What
I'll
is-
just stay here.
What is he chewing on? What is that?
Well, that is a dead stuffed snake. So
All right.
Oh, not just a dead snake.
I mean, it's not a real one.
The dog's got in my cicada stash again.
All right, Joe.
Good.
Speaking of something,
Mm-hmm.
what are we drinking tonight?
Beer guts.
Oh, beer guts. How I love thee. How it ends. A heartwarming little tale of a father and soon-to-be father-in-law traveling cross-country to go track down the daughter/fiance after some unknown event has cut out power and caused all kinds of disasters
Do not speculate about the event, Joe. I don't want to hear
on the
any
western seaboard. The movie kicks off in my hometown, Chicago, Illinois. And because of that, I picked a beer from the fine state. Well, not exactly a beer, but we'll get into that. From the fine state of Illinois. And this is Not Your Father's Root Beer.
Oh,
Yep. From Small Town Brewing out in, and I don't think I'm pronouncing this name right because it's spelt like Wakanda, which I think is the place in Black Panther, right?
Correct.
yes, it is.
Here, I'm gonna Waouconda. That's Wakanda, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it does sound
Yeah.
like it.
I would say maybe, yeah, it's
Yeah.
close.
It's only like the missus and I, we live only about 20 minutes away from this place, but we have not been. But Not Your Father's Root Beer is one of the first alternatives that started popping up in like the last year and a half of like these alcohol root beer, and they make like a ginger ale. There's like an orange soda out there. Handful of companies make these now, but these guys were one of the first. And you know, it's not something I'm going to drink every day, but it's surprisingly pretty tasty. Comes in at about 5.9% alcohol, I think is the percentage on there. They actually make a version that's over 10%. And I've had that. It kind of still just tastes like root beer, which is, I think, the danger of these things.
That's deadly.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty good. Like, I like the ginger ale that they make too. The problem is, it's, I think, about 98% sugar, and
It's so much sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
if you have two, you immediately have the beatus.
Yeah.
The Beatus.
So-
Perfect for stocking at a child's birthday party, perhaps, Joe? Is that what you're saying?
Just mix them in with the regulars.
Yeah.
But you know that doesn't take away from the tastiness of them. Smalltownbrewery.com is their website. And I was really surprised to find that, like, because it's distributed nationally. Like, I think you guys get it on the East Coast too.
Yeah.
I was surprised to find that it's like this small little brewery, you know, in the Chicago suburbs that's putting this out.
Yeah, we get it at our all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, I've got to imagine at this point they have a deal with like a larger brewery. So I don't know if our listeners know that already. Don't send me your stupid tweets and emails because care.
Jeez.
You get out.
But you know, good for them, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it. Smalltownbrewery.com is the website, and you know, if the crew that you're with doesn't like beer, these are definitely a tasty alternative.
You can shove your beer corrections up your ass, listener. Okay.
I know I've done repeats. I know I've given misinformation.
But F you. That's it.
Never.
That's what Joe's trying to say. All right, guys, it is time. Let's talk about how it ends.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
John Schnorrs.
I was getting nervous there.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute my mic. Does
We run a tight ship here, if people haven't noticed.
does your doorman there recognize you with that just really long flowing beard you have?
So, guys, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm a little concerned. So Edwin is the doorman that you all met when you came over to my apartment. I have not seen him in like 3 or 4 weeks now. It might even been longer than that.
Oh no.
It's like starting to make me worried because I honestly just like if he was like retiring or if he was like leaving, I just wish he would have told me. He's like a part of my life.
Listen, John, I think that dude probably has bigger life things to worry about than fucking telling you he's going somewhere.
Well, he also hasn't been on Instagram, and he follows
That's
us on
true.
Instagram. He follows me on Instagram.
He is prolific on Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he hasn't
well,
posted anything in a
actually,
long
he
time.
likes-
Yeah, I
He
was
likes-
literally about to check. Like, I have not seen him post anything in a while.
Okay, never mind. I take it back. Can we send out a search party?
Yeah, that makes me sad.
That's what I'm talking
You should
about.
ask. Ask your
I will.
new for me.
I probably will.
John Schnars, in a how it ends like scenario, would you invite him out to your summer home upstate?
Hell yes.
No.
I mean,
No, you-
look,
no,
I
you-
know our FedEx guy, and if I haven't seen the FedEx guy recently, I get worried. And then when he comes back around, I get very upset. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me you were going on vacation? I got worried.
Oh, all right. While Joe continues to cyberstalk John's doorman, let's bring us the word of the day there, John.
Cyber stuff. This guy's like liking photos of my child on Instagram, all right?
Want
Is
to
the
try to?
music still playing? I can't tell.
You ready, John? You ready? Stand by.
Yeah.
Stand by. There we go. If we don't get any clean,
That's-
it bothers me.
Nah, I was gonna say if I don't get the intro music, I don't do a word of the day. Today's word, and I really hope I haven't done this one before, but I'll just go with it. The word is caldera.
Hmm.
That's Caldera. Caldera is a.
What are you gonna call Dara?
Oh Lord.
Jesus Christ.
That's
A
terrible.
He said one too many root beers, people. A large volcanic crater, typically one formed by a major eruption leading to the collapse of the mouth of the volcano. Caldera comes from Spanish, or it says late Latin, caldaria, which basically means boiling pot. But yeah, so caldera, people may know, like the most famous caldera, at least in the U.S., is Yellowstone, is a caldera. Essentially, it's like a sort of ancient volcano, but is actually, there's like sort of this, you can find all kinds of geological sort of Nat Geo type things around how at some point Yellowstone could sort of reactivate as a volcano. So a caldera is like in some ways it's like a huge wide mouth active volcano.
Thanks
You
for
know,
the
if you need
science
something
lesson.
scary to think about.
I mean, I'm nowhere near
Uh,
the volcanoes, John. I think I'll be all right.
May 16th is the last time that John's doorman has posted anything on Instagram.
I'll be,
I mean, that's a minute.
I'll be honest with you, John. I'm much more worried about the nuclear site within like 50 miles of me that's constantly in the news because it's like degrading and falling apart.
I'm sure the Trump administration will properly fund it.
Yeah, I
and
mean, they're so
do
good
all
at
kinds of
everything
rational
else.
things.
So.
They
John-
said it's fine.
John Schnars.
I believe him.
John Schnars. We are running late. What's this movie about?
all right. How it ends.
Talk about
Not my fault at all.
movie marathon for 45 minutes.
How it ends. Directed by David M. Rosenthal. How it ends is a Netflix joint. So, produced, directed, and then eventually picked up for distribution by Netflix. Premiered July 13th. It stars Theo James, who I guess is from *Halt and Catch Fire*. Eric, is what you?
Oh, one of the
indicated?
producers?
No, the main dude.
Oh no,
No,
he's
no,
from
no,
that,
no,
like,
the
Allegiant
creeper-
movie.
The creeper at the end is in *Halt and Catch Fire*, and Carrie.
Oh yeah,
Carrie B.
Divergent. The
Car-
Divergent.
That's it.
Carrie
yeah.
B. Shea, who's like the woman whose husband is missing that they meet up with in the small town. She's also on
Yeah.
*Halt and Catch Fire*.
Okay, so Forrest Whitaker is probably the most famous sort of
Yeah.
actor here. Kat Graham plays the wife. So this is a movie. So we touched on a little bit of it kind of throughout the conversation, but essentially you have a boyfriend visiting his girlfriend's parents in Chicago while he's on a business trip. The father is Forrest Whitaker. He's like this ex-military guy, and while he's there in Chicago, he lives in Seattle, so that's where the girlfriend is. They've recently found out they're pregnant. While he is separated from her, an event happens. A happening transpires, and the world begins to end. I mean, essentially, it's sort of, in some ways, it's interesting. It's like a disaster movie in a lot of ways, but without a whole lot. There's not many actual scenes of the disaster itself, as opposed to like disaster porn.
Yeah, it's not
You
really
basically have,
about
like,
the
reaction.
It's not about the disaster so much as it is about like polite society breaking down. It's kind of more what it's about. Like
Yeah.
in the like shadow of this looming disaster that we don't really know much about.
Yeah, so basically, the main character, the Theo James character, Will, he's at the airport, like literally when everything starts to kind of blow up. He hustles back to his in-laws or his future in-laws' place, gets in a car with Forrest Whitaker, and is like, "All right, we're driving from Chicago to Seattle, and we're gonna like save." Her name's Sam, I think, in the movie. We're gonna save Sam. And while it's also a disaster film, it's a lot of it's sort of a road film of these two dudes who don't really like each other. There was a boat incident, which we don't talk about, but they don't really like each other. But they're in this car and they're under sort of like high pressure, and they have many misadventures, one might say, and yeah, they're trying to get back to Sam. So that's kind of the setup. I don't know. We probably don't want to get too much into spoilers.
That's good for now. It's like a
yeah.
lot of stuff happens along the way, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But
Yeah.
Joe, what'd you think?
We should say this movie's just shy of 2 hours, right?
Mhm.
Like,
It's over. It's like 2:05.
Really? Oh, is it that long?
think so, yeah.
really liked it up until about the last 15 minutes. I thought Forrest Whitaker, I thought was great in this. I don't think John mentioned, but along the way they kind of run into a mechanic. Was that like an Native American reservation that they were on, or they kind of alluded to it?
Yeah, it was a reservation.
So they, picked up her. I thought she was really good. I thought everybody was great in it. But then you kind of get, and I won't give it away, but you get to like the last 15 minutes and they kind of shoehorn in this weird angle that just felt completely out of place from the rest of the movie. Because John's right, or Eric, you may have said it too. Like at the end of the day, it's really more of like a road trip while this stuff is slowly starting to fall apart around them. And I really like the way that they didn't just go crazy over the top. Like they start off at like a gas station and you kind of see stuff starting to break down. And then like along the way, you run into people who are like guarding their areas, but not like going crazy about it. Like they're just being super, precautious. Is that the right word? Precautious?
Sure.
Precautionary. You do get like a couple pockets of like true danger, but like for the most part it's just a lot of tension of are they going to get there and is something awful going to happen, which I really liked. But then like this last 15 minutes they kind of try and put this angle in to kind of explain things, but maybe it just didn't fit to me, and it really kind of killed the end. But I still at the end of the day enjoyed this a decent amount.
Casey.
I had not heard of this movie until, what was it, last week when John said, hey, this is coming up on Netflix, and we put it on the list. So I had no idea what I was getting into. I agree a lot with Joe for what he had to say. I think the cast was really great. Everybody was pretty solid, and the first 3/4 of this movie are really solid. Now, I didn't have as much of a problem with the last 15 minutes of this movie. It didn't feel as jarring to me, but at the same time, I felt at that point this movie was already going too long. So it wasn't something that necessarily needed to be there either. That would be my big complaint. But otherwise, I really liked how everything unfolded. I like the atmosphere of this. I like the chemistry between Forrest Whitaker and this guy who's dating his daughter, or lack of chemistry thereof. They pulled it off really well. And it was interesting to see how the country broke down as they made their way westward.
Cece.
Yeah, I agree. I had no preconceived notion about this movie, and from watching the trailer, I was pretty prepared to not like it. And once it started, I got a lot of prepper anxiety that I know we've talked about before. So now I've started buying my prepper materials again. So thanks a lot for that.
Wait, really? What did you order?
I ordered some some flint and some more straws. And
How much flint does one need to get
well, they're
through
they're little. It's like I'll show you.
Schnars.
The
The guy living in a literal tower in New York City is like, oh, how much flint do you need for a fire? Isn't that what the doorman does?
Don't you?
I'm really trying to talk myself into buying like one of those like vats of like calorie bars, but I haven't gone that far yet.
So when you say straw, that's the thing where like it'll purify the water as you
Yeah.
drink.
You bought the one off the Prime sale, didn't you?
yes, I did. I bought several of them. Every time they go on sale, I just buy more.
It's
And it
great that
also-
Prime Day coordinated with Cece's laps into insanity.
Yes, exactly. It also really brought up my fear of traveling while the apocalypse happens. So I'm terrified of going on vacation again. So I'm glad that I had gotten that out of the way earlier in the summer. But no, I thought that it was for a Netflix. I mean, I've liked a lot of the Netflix release movies. I was kind of prepared to be annoyed that it was so long, but like everyone else has mentioned, it really didn't start losing its traction until right there at the end. And I loved all the actors, and I thought they did a great job. I was very stoked to see an Indigenous actress, Grace Dove, who is the mechanic. She was awesome. I thought her chemistry was very good, and yeah, I mean, I liked it.
John.
So I didn't have a chance to participate in the email as much as I would have liked, and so I've been thinking about it throughout the day today. I'm gonna go pretty hard anti on this movie. I think.
Oh,
It-
John.
So like, no, here's
Shut
the
up.
thing. Like, you guys hit on a bunch of the stuff that I do think the acting is actually pretty good here. I actually think the character interactions and like the dialogue itself is pretty good. The movie is just a hot mess in terms of structure.
I disagree.
Like-
until the end, I disagree.
No, but even before that, like so like take the Grace Dove character, who again, like I liked her, and like they like pick this woman up in like pretty random fashion, and then she just like disappears at one point because like of an incident they have. But there's the whole movie is just a conglomeration of random things that are happening
Like-
that are all framed around this event, around this sort of end of the world. But the only real characters you have are Forrest Whitaker and Will, and everything else that happens around them is just, I don't know. It feels like really underbaked in a lot of ways. Now, again, and we did talk about this a little bit over the email, but like I think the direction here, or the I should say the like cinematography or the art direction, like a lot of the choices they made in the way that they framed it, and actually the way that they like made a disaster movie that's not about the disaster is actually really interesting. So like I will give them credit on that front. But like, yeah, Joe is like being charitable when saying the last 15 minutes are off the rails. It's like the third act.
That's true. I'll give you
Is
that.
just-
It's like
Yeah.
probably
Bonkers.
it's probably closer to like 25, maybe 30. But it's like
I
there's a
think
point.
it starts to go
there's a-
down, and there's just different variations or like opinions
Yeah.
on when it just goes too
There,
far.
the
for
thing
each
is,
of
there's
us.
a point at which like a key thing happens with Forrest Whitaker's character, and I think we all have the same reaction where you're like, you look over your shoulder at the clock and you're like, but what's gonna happen for the next
Yeah.
40
Yeah.
minutes?
Well-
Like what? And it's still okay. I think like then there's these quiet scenes with the dude and it's fine, but then it's like it's just the shit that happens. is, like,
I think I
ridiculous.
was emailing while I was watching the movie, you know, because we were all watching it on Netflix. So it was like I had made it through 2/3 of the movie or thereabouts. And I was basically like, look, my prediction is the third act of this movie is either going to be like
I thought that was
really great or like a complete disaster area. And it was like hard disaster
that
area, in my
cracked me up
opinion.
because you were dead on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. I think you're being a little harsh, Nars. I really enjoyed this movie. Like I'm with Cece. This movie made me sick to my stomach. First of all, I don't know if this is going to mean anything to somebody listening to this 10 years down the road. Let's hope not. But I watched this. On
I
the
hope
sa-
someone's
wa-
listening to this 10 years from now.
I watched this on the same day as the Trump Putin presser,
Ugh.
which like it was too
Yeah.
much. It was too much for one day, man. Like I already have enough worrying about the world ending, and now I'm watching a literal movie about
Yeah.
not like Schnar said, not disaster porn, but the way that society basically immediately evaporates once something like this happens. Like I say polite society, I mean like that kind of social contract we have with each other,
Yeah.
right?
I
Like
mean, they
and
immediately start fighting over gas.
right away they get to the gas station and there's a dude trying to rob them, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
that makes me so uncomfortable because I already walk around every day thinking about how thin the veneer of society is, like for everybody, and like I think that that's what this movie is like so good at is there's this really interesting core, what I think is a well-written relationship, or at least intriguing, between the husband or the husband to be or whatever, and Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker is awesome in this movie. I think
Yeah, he is really good.
I think
agree.
too often he gets relegated to like, if you look at Star Wars or something, like Rogue One, he gets relegated to these kind of side characters who chew scenery. But here he's like the anchor of this movie, and he is so good.
Hold on, he is chewing scenery here, to be clear.
But I don't.
Yeah.
But it's a. He gets like a meatier character to kind of dig into.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
no,
there's
agreed.
there's more dimension to it.
I'm pretty sure Forrest Whitaker has been like nominated for an Oscar, so like I don't feel bad that he's like
No,
relegated.
I
to,
just
like...
I just don't think he always gets roles like this. Is all I'm saying.
No,
Like,
true.
Not now, you know. But like the movie is so great at slowly ramping up, showing you how out of control things have gotten from and they're like you said, John. It's like a series of kind of vignettes. Like ones that stick out, or like when they're going to the small town to meet his friend, and the whole town and police force have blocked off the road, and they let him through, right? Like nothing. What I like about this movie is it doesn't, most of the time, really until the end, it doesn't make obvious movie decisions, right? Like when they
Yeah.
get to that small town, the obvious movie decision is that this is a super racist small town. They're going to like try to kill these guys. But really it's like there's a interesting human undertone to this where they're not evil, but they're so paranoid that you're terrified of them. Even though in the end they let him in, they let him out, and there's no problem, right? But like but what that creates is this great ratcheting up tension through the whole film with all these interactions. But then towards the end, like a lot of that has been stripped away, and there's this incredible action scene on the bridge with these guys trying to kill him. There's this scene where literally they drive through this town on fire. That shit was awesome, like shot so well.
Yeah.
And I think like there's this great slow ramp of things breaking down as they're making their way out west. I really like this mechanic character that joins. I do think I liked her so much that it's like disappointing when she kind of disappears the way that she does.
Well,
Well,
with
and,
like
like-
very little fanfare.
Well,
But I like,
and
but I
to
don't know.
John's
That's what I mean by like it's not. I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't make
This
obvious.
doesn't follow a plot.
No, here's what I like.
No,
Here's
I
what I
think
like.
John's
It doesn't.
point, like,
It's
I
not.
think that there's a lot
It's
of
not
really...
over the top about tying everything up neatly in a bow. Do you know what I mean? Like in a situation like this, some things would just happen and then go away, and you wouldn't. And that extends all the way to the reason for what's happening. They never tie a neat bow on what's happening because it's actually not super important to the story that they're telling, which is about. Really, it's this like human story about these two people.
I mean, I agree. Like, I think that, to John's point, that there's a lot of things that they probably wanted to touch on in this movie. And the mechanic, Grace Dove's character, like, she kind of mentioned, she gets really upset about the situation that happens. And when she goes to leave, she makes this offhand remark that her people, the indigenous people, will outlast normal Americans because they're used to having to survive. And there's like kind of this conversation about how polite society isn't set up to survive a situation like this. So I kind of appreciate that there's not a whole lot of fanfare with her character leaving, because it's kind of reminiscent of what's actually happening as humans in general. So, I mean, I think you're right. Like, I think it's supposed to be more focused on the human aspect of the situation, but I do think that it could have been polished a little better in some ways.
I really like that scene that Cece's talking about too, because it really kind of shows the human aspect of how these guys react to that situation too, because they hit towards it earlier on in another scene where Grace Dove's character is kind of thrown to the side, and Forrest Whitaker is going to go do his own thing, and the other guy, whose name I can't remember, gets him to stop. Where in this one, they both wake up, they see she's gone, and it's just kind of like you're in that situation. That's what makes it realistic, because what the hell are you going to do? You don't have time to look, so sorry.
Yeah.
I just think Schnars is being a little tough on it. I mean, honestly, this is what I will say just about my experience. Like, this movie had me all the way through until he shows up at that house at the end, and it wasn't until that scene and then the campfire scene where I started being like, what is going on here? But the rest of the way, I was like in it. I was tense. I was like scared about what was going on.
I guess for me, I do think you have to be pretty charitable to it to say that it's anything above. Like, look, I don't know if we want to go down this road right now, so you guys can just
Oh.
cut me off if you don't want to. But like,
Oh, I do.
no, there's a level of like, there's a reason this is being released on Netflix and not in theaters. And like,
Oh,
if you
John.
accept as like the starting place that this is not a theatrical release, like that wasn't its intention, and that it frankly like wouldn't, it's like doesn't rise to that quality.
I mean,
like,
John,
then this is
Ouija
totally fine.
was in theaters, right? Like, I was actually thinking the whole time, I'm surprised this wasn't in theaters until the last whatever, and then it kind of made more sense to me.
Well, yeah, but that like you got to take it as a package. Like I'm not saying that there's no redeeming qualities to this film. Like just to be clear, I am saying that like it's a little all over the place. Like what Eric you keep describing as like not following like film logic or something. Like
That's
there's
not
a reason things follow.
Schnorrs,
film
when you grew a
logic.
goatee,
But how
you
is
got
it,
so
how is it all
mean.
over the place though? Like it's
Yeah, I disagree.
yeah,
I
I
think
thought it
I
was
think
kind
it
of a
actually has.
straightforward.
I think it has a super clear through line. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole thing is really clear about
Well, it's a
ramping
road
up
movie.
that
Like,
relationship
Yeah.
and then hitting these like kind of roadblocks along the way.
Well, again, it's a road movie. Like road movies are like the most natural sort of like narrative structures, right? Because like you start at a place and you have to get to another place, and like
I guess what I'm
you
saying is
drive,
like what
and,
I'm
like,
saying
things happen
is
along the way.
what I'm saying is that every encounter is not used as a setup for a Hollywood-like scenario. Instead, it's all about the tension. Like I guess that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It's not all about confrontation. It's about them just feeling uncomfortable everywhere they go because every person is in survival mode and looking at someone else like they might be a threat. And half the tension in the movie
So
is just lingering in those moments of people not trusting each other.
I actually agree with that 100%. I guess for me, where it like begins to fall apart, or like it like to what end? Like what is the like outcome that they're trying to serve? Like that level of tension is interesting, right? But like to me, it felt like the first season of Walking Dead or something, where like that show was also super tense, you know, and like you're kind of like, oh, like they're trying to get to this place. Like there's a lot of movies that do this same thing. I do think they did some interesting visuals. They made some interesting choices that were like worthwhile. Again, it is not without value. It's more just like at the end of the day, like when I step back from it, I'm like, oh boy, like
Well,
like
but
I
part of the
just don't know what I'm
problem
taking away from this.
because they
To prep,
totally
you need to
boner.
buy prepper stuff on
Apparently, I
Amazon.
need
But no,
I'm
like-
telling you what to do. I'm
You
sending
don't
you
know,
links.
like it's fair. Like you don't know what to take away from it because they totally bonered up the ending. Like
Yeah.
I think that they have what to me
Which
is,
matters,
is
to
a
be
really
clear, I think.
it 100% matters. They have to me what is like a really great kind of ending to the relationship between this guy and Forrest Whitaker. They come to an understanding with each other. They have this really sweet conversation in the car. To me, that's like 5 minutes later, the movie should be over, and that's the
Yeah.
point when you're looking at your watch, like what is going
His
on.
car just
I
like
think-
goes off a bridge into
Like,
the water.
part
It's
of
like,
the-
"Eh, never made
But
it."
I think part of the reason you feel that way is like they really, by the time they get to the end of this movie, you're just like, oh, they had no idea where this was going, which is so frustrating because to me, it felt like it had such direction. To then just see it swan dive off a cliff at the end, you're like, what even just happened?
Well,
just
even
now?
when he told
Why?
his wife, like, or his fiance, like, oh, your dad died. I tried to save him. Like, it seemed very lackluster. I was like,
Yeah.
I just, in my
I mean,
opinion,
what kind
I
of
don't think
conversation was that?
there should have been a single word spoken between the two of them shown in this movie. I think he should have shown up to the house.
Yeah.
He should have been there alone, and the camera can like pull out wide while they're hugging,
Yeah.
and you play
Roll
some sad
credits.
music
Yeah.
credits because like no conversation that they have is ever going to convey the scope and breadth of what he just went through and what we witnessed, right? Like
Yeah.
and movies are smart when they do that, when they skip to past the conversation because we already saw everything, you know?
Yeah.
With that in mind, though, for you guys that don't like the ending at all, because like I said, to me, it didn't really phase me that much. Is your problem more with the conspiracy theory guy that pops up at the end, or is it the segment
Well,
right after that?
it's both things. For one, there's no way that they should be introducing a storyline that crazy and a character that
Yeah.
crazy 95 minutes into this movie. That's just like bad
Yeah.
plotting. And then when that literally is resolved in 10 minutes, boom, story over, has no impact on the plot whatsoever. And then they don't know how to end it, so they get in a car and they drive away to the worst CG dust storm I've ever seen, and they're like, "I love you, babe," and then they just drive away, and it's like, what?
All of a sudden, like the car gets like turbo or something
just
and
Bonnie
outruns.
and
the
It
Clyde
doesn't
storm.
make any like it doesn't. It's literally just feels like they didn't know what to do. And then why did we spend 10 to 15 minutes on this other subplot that had no impact on anything?
Yeah.
Well, and I would
But-
tell you one thing I would say about the ending is I do really, really like the fact that they did not explain the
Yeah.
disaster.
I
Yeah.
Totally,
I like that
totally.
they never went there.
And I love the
kinda-
fact
you
I
know.
love the fact that he found her. I love the scene where he's going through the city. Like the visuals in that scene are
Yeah.
awesome. You know, he finds her. It actually reminded me of like The Mist, the end of The Mist, because he's in the car and he's driving to the apocalypse trying to find her. To me, it's like from the moment we see that dude step out of the house, the rest of the movie is dog poop.
Yeah.
But
Pretty
I mean,
much.
Eric, you bring up a good point too, because the way that they kind of deliver the news to the daughter that her father has died, like we don't actually see it. And I feel like we've gone on this like 90-minute journey where we've kind of built up this relationship. And
Yeah.
then you know when he gets there, he's gonna have to tell her. And
Yeah.
all we see is kind of the aftermath where they're lying, and he's just like, like I wouldn't be able to get her without him. She's like, I know, it's cool. And
Yeah.
like I feel like I needed to see some breakdown where she finds out.
The
that-
other
Yeah, 'cause
the other thing that
because-
happens is, I mean, one, you get to the cabin, it destroys the road trip feel of the whole movie.
Yeah.
That just
Yeah.
like the whole plot just screeches to a halt. The conversations, the dialogue written between these two characters at the end is just baffling. It's like you're not even watching the same character that you've been watching for 90 minutes. And
That's
then this
fair.
other guy's motives are not clear, and he's acting really creepy
No,
and over the
it's-
top. It's like
And the
a
daughter's like
whole separate
staring off
movie.
into space,
It's a
like while
different-
these arguments are happening. Like she's indifferent to the entire thing.
that's a
like-
great way to put it, Schnars. Like
Yeah.
we just walked in on another movie that's been going on that we haven't been
Yeah.
watching.
I can see your arguments with that point. At first, you guys are arguing with the conspiracy theory guy. I was more surprised that he didn't run into a conspiracy theory guy before that point in the movie. So with that aspect, I didn't have a problem with that. And the guy's shadiness and the way he kind of felt, he kind of acted like he might have been entitled to this guy's wife's love because he saved her and everything. I get all that stuff, but the parts that you guys are talking about now, that makes me a lot more.
Why is he getting so mad at him for just speculating? Like, who cares?
But, like
The-
immediately, and
of
like,
course
why
it
wouldn't
looks
he,
like it.
like
The guy just walked through Seattle, getting nuclear winter rained down on him, and this other guy goes, "It's a nuke," and he goes, "You don't." What the? Is this nuclear winter
it's
happening right
happening.
now? What the fuck
It's
was that?
happening.
Cece, where do you live?
In the city. I'm sorry that I don't live in an ivory tower, that I live on the street. Jesus
Cece.
Christ. Recently,
But
yes, it is
this-
quite a city.
This whole conversation this guy's having about not like yelling at this guy for saying it's a nuke, like he just walked through a clearly nuked city. It's just really
Well,
weird, and the character to me is acting in ways inconsistent with the character we've been watching the whole movie.
Yeah.
That part makes sense to me, and it really refers back to what Cece had said earlier on in our email chain too, because all of a sudden he switched to kind of a militaristic tough guy persona, and like as Cece said in the emails, all of a sudden he could shoot a gun just fine. When they showed us earlier that he couldn't.
That was the weirdest thing. Like all of a sudden he knows how to load and like shoot out the window, and it was bizarre. That was really
Each other when he shot.
No,
him.
I'm not. I'm talking about in the car, like while
that whole
Whitaker's dying. Like the first time he asks him to load a gun, he was like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do," and then all of a sudden he's like,
Which side do you point at the
"That's what it seemed like, though."
Do I put it in my mouth? Is that-
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
It's just
movie.
I don't know. I mean, like
I
I was
like,
I was
I-
just I was
it's-
very
I know-
invested in it, and so it's very the ending is really frustrating.
Well,
I think
and
the problem
listen,
is, John, you also like don't have any attachment to like people. I think, and like
That's
Right.
fair. That's fair.
Does your tower have like a safe room? Like,
well, even like
Oh,
loved
come on.
ones.
all right, cut.
You know, I did feel like they made it out of the city. First of all, them trying to leave the city made me think of Schnars, and I would like to know after watching this, John, how you feel about your chances in this kind of scenario.
Oh no, there's no way we'd make it out.
It's not great.
Dude,
Yeah.
I've
no.
made
No.
Kyle, like Kyle and I have had several conversations about our plan if something happens, and I like constantly bring it up to the point where he's like, please stop talking about this.
Like they get in the
Should-
car and they get in traffic leaving the city and it's literally not moving, and they do these great aerials where they show that just every car in the city's in the road. But then later that day they're just on the open
Yeah.
road. It doesn't
Yeah.
it's a little crazy.
They
But
got
I
out
think
of
it's a good point of
Chicago.
explaining that, because I appreciated that like the cops like start blocking off the roads and they're
Yeah.
like, we're not supporting anybody to go past this, which I liked because it would have made no sense for them to be the only people on the road otherwise.
I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
feel like they got out of Chicago during the apocalypse quicker than I've
Well,
gotten
sure.
out of Chicago at like 3 p.m. on a Sunday.
I like that moment though, where I really enjoyed that kind of character moment where the cop saying, "Look, if something happens you out here, we can't help you." Blah blah blah. And Forrest Whitaker has this like quick little heart to heart with that guy. He's like, "Look, I'm a Marine. I'm trying to find my daughter. Like, what can you do for me?" And the guy kind of reluctantly lets him through. But like, it's the apocalypse. This dude doesn't really care. Like he warned him,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like,
He definitely would have shot Forrest Whitaker on the spot. Can we just like get that out of the way
Well,
right
that's
now?
I know. I
don't
just
know about
honestly,
this.
I just
Like,
His
really,
identity at all.
I think
Well,
I really just enjoyed Forrest Whitaker in this movie, and I feel like he is just kind of carrying so much weight to his character here.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I kind of liked about this movie too, is like scenes like that where they didn't have the army guy like have some sort of ulterior motive or
Yeah,
like
he's just a
like
dude.
he's hiding some sort of conspiracy. He's just a
Yeah.
guy who's out there supposed to block
Doing
the
his
road
job.
because it's dangerous
That's
for people to
that's
go through.
exactly what I mean by like it doesn't make movie decisions for most of the movie. Like it's trying to portray just kind of people, and people may not always have some nefarious like plot against you. They
Exactly.
might just not trust you, and that's why they're staring you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Evil.
there,
I
John.
don't like evil
Yeah.
Schnars.
You're right. I was wrong, and this movie's great.
Oh, great.
I appreciated that you
That's-
played devil's
I'm glad,
advocate.
I'm glad you finally admitted that, John.
Here's how I know that I liked this movie. Like it's over 2 hours long.
and
and
you
I-
fought John about it.
I watched the whole thing in one sitting, and I like really wanted to see how it ended. It's unfortunate
Hmm.
how it did actually end, but
Yeah.
Oh man, I was getting very irate at the ending, like actively angry.
I was making faces. I'm just like, what is
Well,
happening?
I was
here?
also like, I'll be honest, I was holding out hope that there would be like something cool where it was like so this is and
they
and
pan and see like a spaceship or something.
no like a big disaster sequence, which like what's annoying is like that is what the very ending is like basically there's some sort of like caldera or like whatever, like some kind of geological disaster, and like they're like outrunning this dust cloud. But like I wanted to see that kind of like on a bigger scale, because the way that it is, it's like there's some like smoke that's like blowing in.
Yeah,
from the
I mean,
sides.
it's
like,
not
we
right.
gotta get out of here.
right,
And
like,
then
it's
it's like
not-
CGI dust following.
It's
them.
not what the movie's about, and it's not the movie's strength. So I feel like what they should have done was play more to those intimate character moments, which is what it had done so well.
Yeah.
Fair. Instead, they were like, let's invent a weird, like, sketchy
Yeah,
neighbor
it's-
who like wants to have sexy.
I mean,
times.
here's the funny, the whole.
That they've never seen before.
Here's the funniest thing about that
Who
subplot
is this
is
guy? He
that's-
lived next door to us.
that subplot ends, and spoiler alert, he shoots the guy because he tries to kill him. He runs over.
He
to,
has one bullet, which he is telegraphed like 30 minutes before. in
he
the
runs
film.
back to the house. He grabs his girlfriend. The world's starting to end, and she goes, "Where's blah blah blah?" And he goes, "He tried to kill me." And she goes, "Huh?" And then they get in the car, and that's literally that's the weight of that whole subplot just dissipates. It's gone. It's never mentioned again. She goes, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Well,
They
I mean,
actually didn't show him when Forrest Whitaker died. He just rolled his dead body out of the car and kept driving.
he slowed down. He didn't even stop.
Lord.
So glad to get that weight out of the car when his gas is really going to go further now.
Oh man.
Oh.
God.
You heard
I-
Forrest Whitaker scream, "What are you doing? I'm not dead."
I did have one other like somewhat, tangential, but actually related point. So I've driven cross country. I drove from North Carolina to LA and
Well,
back.
la di da.
No. So I did it going out there in basically 3.5 days, like 4 days.
Mhm.
This movie in 5 days, they go from Chicago to Seattle.
And there's no traffic.
Now, well, yeah, you don't even see another human. So like, the obviously they have to like stop and like fight some people. And,
They
like,
had to
the
stop and like
hillbillies are trying to
siphon,
kill them on the
they had
bridge.
to like siphon gas and stuff.
But like, there's no effing way it should take 5 days to drive that far. It just shouldn't.
Right.
also
Well, I
take
thought about that
back
too
roads.
because
They're
I
not
mean
on
the times that it's taken me 5 days to go cross country, it's because I've like stopped places and their stops were like 30 minutes and they don't even show them sleeping or
Well,
like setting up camp.
Imagine
Well,
how
they
confused
are
I was.
taking like side roads. They're not on the highway.
Right, but still,
Highway for a big chunk of it.
yeah.
Imagine how confused I was because I thought they were in New York City, and then day 2 was like Minnesota, and I was like, "What the? How did they go that far?"
Did they take a boat on Lake Erie? What? Yeah.
All right, guys. How it ends. Time to wrap it up. Joe, would you recommend this?
Yeah, I would still.
Casey,
Yes, I'd watch it.
John.
Yes,
I
would.
Okay, that settles it. Cece,
Yes.
great. You know what? I'm gonna say yes, but let's put it this way: when you see him get to that house and hug his wife, turn that shit
Turn it
off.
off.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great movie. I can't
Carl,
wait to tell everybody about
I'm not
this.
kidding, because that's the ending you deserve, not the ending you're gonna get if you keep going.
Oh my god.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it. That's 5 thumbs up from the BGH crew. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Remember those idyllic scenes out of your childhood? Crisp winter nights, sleigh bells, crackling Yule logs? Remember those? Remember them well? After Black Christmas, they'll never be the same again. Black Christmas. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight.
Rated R.
Hi, this is Adrienne Barbeau, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. John, I was really surprised when you recommended that movie at the end there.
Yeah. I
Two-
know.
2 thumbs up, guys.
Had 2 beers tonight, so lost control of myself, I guess. Oh man.
Okay, first up, before we get to email, July 22nd, BGH, the new class, they're doing a tweet with BGH on the first Purge. So there you go. There'll be a drinking game up on the site. They go live at 8 p.m. and it's for rent on Vudu and Google Play.
Voodoo.
There you go.
Good times.
Great talk, guys.
Also, info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We got an email this week. And I am looking at the wrong thing.
Oh,
Stand by. Here we go. Caitlin, happy Friday the 13th.
hey, spooky people.
I have to keep my Twitter private because of work, so here's my SBGH. What are your favorite horror movies where the bad guys win? Ouija Origin of Evil, The Witch, The Strangers, and a certain new release that I won't spoil come to mind. I think The Strangers is a good one. That's a gut punch, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Witch. The Witch is amazing.
The Witch,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
great
I
one.
love The Witch.
Yeah.
I mean, Funny Games. I know that's not recent, but
I mean, I'm always referencing this one, but The Last Exorcism has a great bad guys win ending.
I can't think of any at the moment.
But yeah, I honestly would probably say The Strangers is like number one.
Yeah, that's
That movie like just beats you down by the time it's over. There you go, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. That's it.
Okay.
Nobody had thoughts on our Purge Palace, y'all.
Purge Palace.
Come on down to the Purge Palace for all your
John,
purging
you
needs.
You want to do tweets or just...
I got the tweets.
Schnars
Are we
looks
ready for the tweets?
Schnars looks like he's ready for the Purge with that
I didn't
half
know
beard.
I didn't know if Eric was done or what the. Yeah, so here we are. We will start with BGH Classics. These are folks enjoying our back catalog, which you can get access to by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. The first one comes to us from Dylan Lidgard. Dilly D. Williams, at Dilly D. Williams. It's a Joe tweet.
Oh.
You have not lived until you have had Mike Ditka's meat inside of you.
It's true.
Inside of your what? Inside of your what, John?
And
Inside of you.
Oh,
Just
there you
inside
go.
of you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, anywhere really, Eric.
I
Is the point.
I stand by that.
So, yeah. All right, another Joe one. We got a Joe heavy lineup here. This is from Jess Lynn 35. You know it's a good day when Jar Jar is okay. That was from episode 403. Not well, I guess that was a long time ago now. Like last year. All right, Skizbot. This is an Eric one. A lot of swearing in this. I'm just gonna read it as is.
Do you want me to read it? Is this the one about shenanigans? Because I actually
you
let me
can
read it
if
because
you
I
want.
really felt this in my soul.
I was gonna read this in my Eric voice, but go ahead.
Oh no, okay, never mind. I
No,
want to hear that. Okay, so this was a from episode 58, My Bloody Valentine. Fucking shenanigans. It's stupid. The movie's over. I gotta take a piss. I can't sit through 10 minutes of Sam Jackson say some shit that I don't give a fuck about. Okay. And I still feel this way today about all post-credit things. F you. I need to go to the bathroom. I don't want to sit through this crap. It's pointless.
Take a stand.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, so there we are. And so Monica checked in here with a couple. I'm going to read these just in order. I mean, listen, if you're supporting the show, I'll consider it. That's all I'm saying. And that was me in response to Eric saying, Schnars takes a taxi to your house and gives you an HJ. I think that was a Patreon tier we were considering at one point, but
I'm not sure. Yeah, no, I think that was. I'm not sure why it was a cab, but I guess you don't have a car, right, Schnars?
No, we do have a car.
Oh, you do? Okay, never mind. Well, maybe at the time you would have had to Uber over there, but
yeah, no, I didn't have it. That's a recent addition. All right, next one comes from episode 348, Cooties. It's like up into my sweet spot, Mark on Krampus, and then Eric says, which is ironic because it's actually salty up there. And then Joe says, what? And then I said, you're both gross. That's like pretty standard interaction, I feel like.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah.
All right, last one here. Mark says, oh no, actually Eric says, excuse me. Mark, skinny wieners, how do they work? And then apparently same episode, long and skinny, that's not going to please anyone. And that's
What?
Apparently Eric talking about New York State.
that was me. No idea.
I don't know what the reference to
It's
New York
almost
State
better
is,
if you don't have the context.
yeah. So there you go. Eric just talking about
I think the
skinny wieners.
point of tonight's BGH Classics is that I say a lot of smart stuff.
Yeah. Something.
I just want to know what your experience with skinny wieners is.
Listen, it's just a known fact.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the next, the other hashtag we follow, the OG hashtag, Ask BGH, where you can ask us things, and we'll mostly read them on the internet or on the podcast. So if you really just want us to say weird shit, it's a good place to do it. The Slanderous Gent, that's at Slanderous Gent, says, with the ongoing, quote, does the dog die string of questions over the past few weeks, just wondered if any of you guys are cat people.
No.
No,
I'm a
dude.
cat person.
Cat.
I mean, I
people?
don't mind cats, but no, I don't have
I don't
cats.
trust cat people. Sorry, Casey.
Yeah, well,
No, it's disgusting.
so we have two cats here in my household, and I dislike
Case in
both of
point.
them.
Their poop is in your house. That's just like
Yeah.
non-starter
Eric.
number one for me.
Yeah, all right, but like in New York, dog people have to walk around with a baggie on their hand that they then use to pick up dog poop.
But it's outside. It's not in your apartment. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
I don't know.
Plus,
It's
dogs
worse.
are basically people. Cats are just evil aliens.
Listen,
You-
it is the single biggest point of tension in my marriage. These cats. Let's
You know what's
just put
funny though? I will say to you, Schnars, the dog's the same for me.
Yeah, I mean they just the cat. I'm just done
Just
with the cats.
keeping
I
an
just don't
animal
want-
alive in
but-
general is a very stressful thing. It's very
Yeah, well,
expensive.
I seem to remember Schnars being pretty excited when he got the cats as kittens.
Well, listen, that's true. It was during the podcast.
That was before he
era.
had 7 children.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now I have 3
Yeah.
kids now. The biggest problem we have with the cats is that they meow before, like when the sun comes up, basically.
Oh,
So like even if the kids are asleep, the cats will wake up.
yeah,
it's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare. That sucks.
It makes me very unhappy.
Well,
Yeah. You know, you've got a balcony, right?
I know, dude. I joke about leaving the friggin' windows open all the time.
Horrible.
It upsets my wife.
Horrible.
I know it's upsetting Cece right now. So
My,
Yes,
I remember that. I
exactly.
don't know why this just came to me, but a friend of mine, his parents got a cat, and when we were kids, and the dad didn't want it, and he always used to say like, the first time it does something in the house, I'm gonna put the shovel out by the garage. The second time, I'm digging the hole.
Ow! That is dark. So here's the thing. I will go on the defensive for cats in one regard. So I grew up with cats, and the thing is, when you have a house with a yard and you can just put the cats outside, A, you don't have to clean up their shit that much because they use the litter box but less frequently, and B, they just want to be outside and like fucking sitting under the porch, and like hanging out. Like I'm totally
What
fine
a
with
great pet.
Fun fact:
Yeah.
anytime my friend would leave his door open, that cat would go in his room and piss all over his bed. Just
that cat
top
must
to
have, like,
bottom.
mental problems or something. It's like that's a whole separate thing. Oh Jesus! All right, so the next one.
You
So the
get
next
so
one
mad.
actually comes from Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith, 1983. Eric added the SBGH, so I'm assuming this is the tweet that you added it to. So he says, by the way, on the next pod, you got to bring up that part in the show during Fallen Kingdom where Casey randomly decides to be the host and goes spoiler crazy. Quote, all right, guys, so let's get into this thing. So the daughter is a clone. Then you guys all freak out.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
not
that was
even
part that
100%
all of us were like,
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
But when he says Casey, who is he talking? Is he talking about our Casey?
Casey, yeah.
Yeah,
Casey just
Oh.
blurted that
I
out.
spoiled the shit out of that.
Wait, but what show is he? What did
Fallen Kingdom,
Fallen
Jurassic,
Kingdom.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic
Oh.
World.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I totally did.
It was just like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I wasn't on the shot. I forgot.
Mm.
There you go.
I was, and I'm drawing a blank on it.
There was
Yes,
a
I
lot of
don't-
bourbon that night. That's all I could say.
So, yeah. So thank you there, Ryan. All right, next one, John McGonigal. That's at J McGonigal. Where's BGH New Class Live for the hashtag Last Drive-In? At Eric BGH. Cannot wait to hear the thoughts on the next podcast.
Well, you just got him.
No, you just heard all of
You just
them.
got him. Also, my wife was like, "Why don't you guys like stream one of these and do Spooktacular on it?" My wife said that.
Smart
Alright.
lady.
I'm just saying,
What's
John.
this spectacular now?
Joe's been too blacked out for most of them.
I'm just saying, we've never done the Prowler. We've never done Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl-orama.
I would be down for that.
Yeah, let's just agree we're never doing a spectacular again. I'm not. You guys got my hopes up way too many times, and I tried to organize that.
I'm down
and then
for
it
it.
just fell
Let's do it. If it's
What
Joe
if we
Bob,
stop
I'm
putting
there.
a name on it and we just hang out on a video on webcam and get shit faced and watch a movie?
Drunk movie Sundays.
All right, we got a good one here from Skizbot, Skylar, our buddy.
Joe.
Is there a band or musician that you have never seen live that you would pay an obscene amount of money to see perform? If there's ever an Oingo Boingo reunion tour, I will become poor to go to there.
No, I'm too old to like if a concert is cheap and easy to get to, I'll go to it. But there's nothing I would spend a lot of. Literally nobody I would spend a lot of money for. Maybe
I
if
don't know, I
you
already spend a lot of money to see shows. So
maybe if you reanimated George Carlin's corpse, I might pay a lot of money to go see him in concert. But
I
that's
got to
about
see
it.
him live once.
Yeah.
I get stressed out at the fact that I'll probably never see Tom Waits live. Like he'll probably drop dead. He does like one show every 10 years, and he'll probably be dead soon. Like that bums me out. I would pay a lot for that.
Pearl Jam's still on my bucket list to see live, but I don't know that I'd pay that much.
I mean, you can probably see them. They're like out and about, right?
Here's the
No,
other
I know,
thing.
that's what I'm saying.
The other thing though, like you can literally go to YouTube and see like high res like 4K concerts for free of any band you want to see.
Yeah, come on. That is not the same as being there. So-
Yeah, it is. It's actually better because I can have my
my
own snacks and go to the bathroom and go to bed when it's over. I don't have to
Alright,
drive home.
That is like legitimately the most old man fucking statement I've ever heard.
Am
in
I
my
wrong?
life.
Are you surprised?
So like it's funny, like I was thinking about this because I saw the tweet maybe like an hour ago. I don't even have like a single band. There's just like a long list of acts that I would love to see. My problem is I do not like seeing huge shows. So like once
Yeah.
someone is like big and popular enough that they're playing in like a fucking stadium,
No.
I don't want
Yeah,
any
no.
part of that.
So
Some of the best concerts I've ever been to are like just rolling into like random ass clubs, paying a $10 cover, and like seeing band I've never heard of
Yeah.
in New York.
I
You know,
mean,
because you can do that
because
There's
of
a lot of activity
because
in
of
New York, so.
Spotify, like I'm almost completely listening to independent bands these days, and they do come around here. I had tickets like last summer to see the band I was like at that time obsessed with, $15. I ended up not going because I was too
Oh.
tired.
I don't go to more concerts than I pay for than I actually end up going to.
Yeah, like I was, you know what it was? Like I had the tickets. It was, I think it was a Sunday night, and we had traveled that weekend. I was tired, and then I also looked it up online. And I realized they weren't opening, so they weren't even going to go on till like 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. And I was just like, I can't. I don't think I can do this.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get me to actually go in and see a band these days.
I'm going to see Foo Fighters next week on a school night, so that'll be exciting.
That'll be good though. The last time I
Yeah.
saw the Foo Fighters were amazing.
But I agree with John. Like, I have no desire to see, like, I'm sure they're playing at like a big place. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing them, but I have no desire to see like any arena bullshit.
Yeah, the hard part with the arena stuff is just like, to Eric's point, this is where I will side with Eric. It is always a nightmare getting into and out of those like events. And like I've been to some great like live big shows. It's the other thing, again, I will say for New York is like you can see someone at like Madison Square Garden and it's actually like pretty easy to get into and out of because it's in the middle of the fucking city.
Well,
so like,
also you're like walking, so it's super easy to get.
Well,
out.
that's what I mean. Or you just jump on the subway and it's like not that
I mean,
bad.
to be fair, like I saw the Up in Smoke tour live in 1998 or whatever it was, so like I can't imagine any concert's ever going to be as good as that again. Like, do you have Nate Dogg and Warren G there? No, then I probably don't want to be there.
You get out.
Do you have a giant metallic skull floating over the audience that talks about smoking weed and then blows weed smoke out of
I
its
don't know.
mouth?
I mean, I saw Run the Jewels not too long ago, and they had a pretty impressive live show. And they had Big Boy, Sleepy Brown, like they had all the Atlanta people show up. So.
I once saw Limp Bizkit perform on top of a giant robot stage. That's like, bloop, bloop.
Robots
doing the
It's
robot?
like it looked like a transformer, and like the DJ was on one shoulder and the drummer was on the other shoulder, and then the two guitarists, I guess, and Fred Durst on the
Mad
bottom,
Max, like-
and it shot like
Dear
flames. It shot flames out of its mouth. It was crazy.
What the fuck?
That would have been like chocolate starfish era, Joe.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's post. I think when I was partaking in them.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet.
All right, let's wrap it up here. We got two more.
I'm not gonna lie.
Rue Badley, R-O-U-X, Rue Badley, at Real Joe Scar, says, what would Elon Musk's failed invention look like for how it ends? And which actor would he call pedo guy on Twitter?
Jesus Christ.
This is like too current events centric for me, I think.
I'll be honest, I legit know nothing about Elon Musk. I thought he was a guy who created fragrances up until like 2 weeks ago.
Musk.
Musk by Musk.
Doesn't he sound like in the 90s like CK1 by Elon Musk?
Literally nothing I could say.
Drakkar Noir.
Nothing
Yeah,
I
that's what
could
it
say
sounds
could
like.
top that. So
Yeah.
that's all I'd say.
I'm not 100% sure what he's referring to.
He's
Does
referring
anyone know
to
what the
him.
pedo guy reference is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
I hate that I
there
know
was
this.
like a British guy or is some white guy in Thailand who like showed the divers how to like save the kids, and because he actually like helped facilitate it, Elon Musk started calling him out. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know,
he
it's
because
weird.
he sent some weird useless prototype submarine
Yeah.
to them
Yeah.
to try to rescue the kids, and then they asked this dude about it on the news, this diver, and he was like, he just straight up was like, yeah, it was a publicity stunt. I don't know what he thought that thing was gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's what prompted the Twitter.
Yes.
Twitter
Yeah.
shit
Oh,
talking.
it's all coming together. I actually did know I had heard about this at least. Interesting. So maybe it's like a straw, but it like turns the like water into Coke or something for you.
Joe,
I don't
it's a scent. It's a men's perfume.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine fragrance.
I can't
Toilet
believe he
water.
called someone pedo guy. Though. That's
By
pretty
Elon
brutal.
Musk.
all right.
PSA also, if you ever wear cologne, everyone hates you and they're not telling you. So congratulations.
I gotta imagine male
Elon
strippers.
Musk is really going to be struggling business-wise, Eric.
No one has literally
That's
ever
the
walked
case.
by a person, smelled their cologne, and thought, boy, that person smells great. I don't want to stab them in the eyeballs at all.
Hold on. Like, I actually agree with you. I don't own any cologne, but at the same time, like, somebody's buying all this cologne because
Yeah,
Like,
douches.
what?
Just huge douches.
What is that smell? That guy fucks.
Yeah, like, have you ever thought that to yourself?
Joe has apparently.
Boy, he's cool. I got to give me some of that stuff that makes me stink like ass.
What is that? Sandalwood and leather? This guy must fuck.
Oh my god.
I hope we're doing a
Is that
PSA for
must, I
someone
must?
out there tonight, Joe.
Good for you.
We're teaching Andrew about lubing up his nipples before he runs. Now we're teaching people to stop wearing cologne. I feel like we've really been doing a service here lately, you know?
Yeah, we should stop
We're
talking
here.
about the
It's okay.
movies and just.
Just life advice.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Thomas Monk at Thomas_Monk. Hey, have any of you seen The Endless yet? If so, what did you think? I was a big fan of Resolution and enjoyed this one as well.
I believe it's on our list.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were originally talking about doing it this week. We bumped it because this was sort of a newish release on Netflix. So it looks like it's going to be not this coming week because we have Unfriended 2. But yeah, we'll be doing it the week after that, I think.
Nice.
And I'm excited to watch it, is what I would say.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
Cool. So we think that we're gonna be potentially seeing Unfriended Dark Web if we can all catch it this weekend.
Yeah, I think we'll be gonna be good.
I was fairly excited by the trailer, except for the part where the guy hilariously explains what the dark web is to everybody else. That part was a little.
Come on, Eric, you gotta have that scene.
I know, I get it.
I was shocked. I thought it looked way darker. Like no pun intended. Like
And webbier.
No, but like the first one is like not. It's almost like a slasher.
It's goofy.
This has got like straight up like torture sequences, sort of, or there's like human trafficking subplot. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Yeah. So, but I'm interested. I'm excited. Excited might be strong, but I'm interested.
New York's hottest nightclub.
Looks pretty
Love
crazy. Don't forget, Tweet with BGH, Sunday, July 22nd. They're going live at 8 p.m. Eastern, talking about The Purge. And check out the drinking game that Thursday up on the site. And there you go. And don't forget to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. You can check out a live stream of the show every week and become a member of our Slack, where the fitness
We
channel...
talk about fitness.
The fitness channel is on and popping lately.
The food channel is fairly active as well.
Yeah. Giving Joe's garbage TV channel a run for his money. Yeah.
Well,
I always I pop in on the garbage TV channel to talk about Big Brother after the show airs, and we make it like 5 comments, and then somebody's like, "Oh my God, did you hear what happened with blah 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 from Real Housewives of whatever?" And I'm like, checking out.
God bless Mark for trying to bring The Bachelor in there that nobody watches.
Who watches The Bachelor, dude?
Every
Like,
2 days,
seriously?
he's like, anyone check out The Bachelor last night?
Mark. Lost cause. All right, guys. That's going to do it. Now you know how it ends. Unfortunate. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Later.
See ya.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.